Meet Daniel King, a man who has it all. Wealth, fame, and millions of followers hanging on his every post. A social media influencer in the prime of his life, Daniel craves the admiration of his digital audience. But tonight, he will find himself face to face with a different kind of reality in the Gold Crown.
Settling into the dental chair, Daniel King turned off his phone, not before checking his Instagram account to see the growing number of views on his latest post. Satisfied with the attention, he faced Dr. Henry Hall, who was looking down at him with a doubtful expression.
Hey, are you really sure about capping that front tooth in gold? It's a totally healthy white tooth,
the dentist said, sounding a bit unsure. Daniel leaned in, lowering his voice as if sharing a grand secret.
It's for my followers, Doc. I need it now, right now, understand? I know I just walked in without an appointment, but I can pay you twice your usual rate. My viewers love the bling, and I live to give them what they expect of me.
Dr. Hall sighed, glancing around the empty clinic.
Daniel, I usually have an assistant here to help with procedures like this, but today I'm working solo. Why don't you reschedule?
Daniel's eyes narrowed with impatience.
But Doc, this is urgent. Can't you make an exception just this once?
Dr. Hall hesitated, his professional ethics wrestling with the temptation of the generous offer. With his perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, and a phone perpetually in hand, Daniel was the epitome of a social media influencer who relished all things gold. His social media feed was a curated gallery of opulence, each post more extravagant, if not more outlandish than the last. Dr. Hall's expression remained neutral, though his mind raced with a mix of concern and contempt for the arrogant fool before him.
Look, man, dental health is serious business. Gold crowns might look flashy, but are you sure you want to grow old with one?
Daniel waved a dismissive hand.
I've got millions of followers, Doc. This gold tooth will be a surefire hit. Just do it. And hey, if anything goes sideways afterwards,
he added with a cavalier grin,
I'm signing off on all accountability. You're clear, Doc. I'm taking full responsibility for this. It's going to be viral.
Dr. Hall's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded, seemingly satisfied with the arrangement. A tense silence filled the room as Dr. Hall studied Daniel. The influencer tapped his fingers on the armrest, his eyes darting impatiently around the small clinic with walls adorned with framed certificates and calming decor. Seeing his reflection on the overhead lamp, he adjusted his perfectly styled hair, then glanced at his watch with a slight huff. Every gesture screamed impatience and vanity. As Dr. Hall prepared for the procedure, he adjusted his gloves and picked up the drill.
All right, let's get started,
he said, his voice steady, hiding his inner thoughts. Daniel's eyes flickered nervously for a moment, but he quickly composed himself, maintaining his haughty demeanor. Soon the buzz of drilling filled the air. A thin wisp of smoke curled upward from Daniel's mouth, carrying with it a distinct, acrid scent. The smell of burning enamel mixed with the sharp odor of heated composite material created an unsettling aroma that lingered in the air. It was a pungent reminder of the irreversible process taking place, a scent both chemical and faintly organic, tinged with an almost metallic edge. Dr. Hall carefully began to shape the gold tooth, the drill's vibration resonating through Daniel's jaw. Tiny particles of gold and enamel flew into the air, caught by the suction device. "This won't take long," Dr. Hall assured, though inwardly he questioned the influencer's vanity-driven decision. Once the tooth was properly prepared, Dr. Hall applied an etching gel to roughen the surface, then carefully rinsed and dried the area. He followed with a bonding agent, ensuring it covered the tooth evenly before curing it with a blue light. Finally, he placed the gold veneer using a resin cement, pressing it into place with meticulous precision and curing it again to secure the bond. "There you go," Dr. Hall said, stepping back to admire his work, though he felt no sense of accomplishment. Daniel sat up, flashing a golden smile at his reflection in the nearby mirror.
"This is going to be epic,"
he declared, already reaching for his phone to capture the moment. Dr. Hall watched, a mix of concern and slight disdain simmering beneath his professional exterior. Daniel smirked, his confidence unwavering. "Don't worry about me, Doc. Just make it shine." As Dr. Hall completed the procedure, a sense of pride settled over him. He stepped back to admire his handiwork, beaming with satisfaction. All done. The gold tooth was a true masterpiece. Daniel, thrilled with his new smile, flashed a dazzling grin at Dr. Hall. "Thanks, Doc. You're a genius." As he exited the clinic, he caught the admiring gaze of Rachel, the receptionist.
"Wow, your gold tooth looks amazing,"
she exclaimed. Daniel flashed her a charming smile, his eyes locking onto hers.
Thanks, my beautiful. You like it?
Rachel blushed, taken aback by his sudden flirtation.
"Why, yes, it's really, eye-catching."
Daniel leaned in, his voice low.
Maybe I'll show you just how eye-catching it can be. Over drinks sometime.
Rachel's cheeks flushed deeper, but she smiled, clearly tempted.
Maybe.
Dr. Hall, observing the exchange, felt a shiver run down his spine. A growing feeling of jealousy clouded his judgment. Rachel, the woman Dr. Hall had tried to date but who always refused, claiming she didn't believe in office romance, was now shamelessly flirting. How could a shallow, less educated guy like Daniel spark her interest when he had never been able to? It didn't make sense, and the thought gnawed at him. He sensed trouble brewing, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. As Daniel stepped out of the clinic, his gleaming gold tooth mirrored his confidence. He couldn't wait to share his new smile with the world. A few hours later, he posted a selfie on social media, flaunting his dazzling grin.
"Gold standard, baby,"
he captioned, winking at the camera. Within minutes, his fans went wild. Comments and likes poured in, flooding his feed with admiration.
King Midas vibes. Goldie, you're shining bright. Daniel, your smile is everything.
The notifications blew up his phone, and Daniel lapped up the attention, basking in the glory of his newfound sparkle. Dr. Hall's masterpiece had indeed turned heads, and Daniel's fame was soaring to new heights. Little did he know that a month later this fleeting glory would soon take a drastic turn.
"Just had the worst day, guys,"
he typed, his thumbs flying across the screen.
"My signature gold tooth just fell out."
As he posted, Daniel couldn't help but imagine the horror of his followers seeing him without his gleaming gold crown. He envisioned the likes and comments dwindling, the sponsorships drying up, and the carefully constructed image he'd spent years building crumbling into dust. But as the comments began to roll in, Daniel's anxiety gave way to a twisted sense of fascination. His followers were eating up the drama, speculating about the tooth's fate, and even offering their own DIY repair solutions. The gold tooth's departure had brought a strange, morbid thrill to his feed, and Daniel found himself leaning into the chaos, milking it for all it was worth. Eventually, Daniel's carefully crafted image crumbled, and his fans had a field day. The memes and jokes escalated, with many calling him Goldie Gone Wrong and Toothy Dork. Daniel's social media feeds, once filled with adoration, were now flooded with ridicule and schadenfreude. His frustration boiled over, prompting him to post a follow-up. "Update. I'll be going live in an hour to address the Toothgate situation. Stay tuned, folks," he posted, his mind whirling with the possibilities. In a hastily recorded Instagram video, he held the dislodged gold tooth up to the camera.
"Look at this, guys,"
he exclaimed, his voice dripping with outrage.
"This is what I got from Dr. Henry Hall's so-called renowned dental practice. A shoddy job that couldn't even last a month. Total incompetence."
Comments flooded in, ranging from sympathy to outrage on his behalf.
"Unbelievable,"
one follower wrote. "How could a professional mess up so badly?" Another added,
"I was thinking about booking an appointment there, not anymore."
Daniel continued his hateful tirade across Twitter and Facebook, posting close-up photos of his now incomplete smile.
"Beware of Dr. Hall,"
he tweeted.
"He'll charge you a fortune and leave you with a disaster."
In the once thriving practice, Dr. Hall noticed a sudden drop in appointments. Patients who had scheduled follow-ups began cancelling, citing concerns over the quality of care. One long-time patient called the clinic.
"I'm sorry, Dr. Hall,"
she said hesitantly.
but after seeing those posts from Daniel King, I just don't feel comfortable coming back.
Dr. Hall sighed deeply, rubbing his temples as he glanced at the clinic's empty waiting room, his past due accumulating in his mailbox. The phone, which used to ring off the hook, was eerily silent. Rachel, looking concerned, approached him.
Doctor, we've had 5 more cancellations this morning. What are we going to do?
The once bustling clinic now had more empty slots than filled appointments. Unpaid bills started piling up. The deterioration in his practice gnawed at him, practically driving him insane with worry, eventually forcing him to let go of his staff. Like a bad recurring nightmare, Dr. Hall carefully retraced the process in his mind to see what could have gone wrong. How could the crown have fallen off after he had done such a meticulous job? He remembered every detail of the procedure, the careful etching, the precise application of the bonding agent, and the secure placement of the gold veneer. Everything had been done by the book, with his usual high standards. Could it have been an issue with the material itself? Or perhaps Daniel had not followed the post-procedure care instructions properly. Dr. Hall's eyes narrowed as he thought,
I should sue Daniel for defamation.
but then reality set in.
He's ruined my reputation and my practice with fake news. On second thoughts, suing Daniel would cost me an arm and a leg,
Dr. Hall said to himself, shaking his head.
and even if I won, the court battle would be a never-ending nightmare. It'll keep me in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. My image would still be ruined and I'd be financially screwed. Nope, not going to go down that road.
Dr. Hall rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of his downfall.
That coward gets away with this, while I'm left to pick up the pieces.
The thought burned within him. As he replayed the events in his mind, he couldn't shake off the feeling of injustice. I did everything by the book. It wasn't my fault. The memory of Daniel's online tirade still stung. Just then, Rachel appeared at his doorstep, looking hesitant.
Dr. Hall, I have something to tell you. Something that might explain what really happened to Daniel's gold tooth.
Dr. Hall's curiosity was piqued.
What is it, Rachel?
Rachel took a deep breath.
I, had a brief affair with Daniel. A night of passion, really. We didn't exactly exchange rings afterward.
She blushed, looking down. Dr. Hall raised an eyebrow at his former receptionist, struggling to hide his jealousy. His jaw tightened as Rachel casually admitted.
It was just a one-night stand with Daniel. Nothing serious.
The words stung, deepening his bitterness and resentment. Trying to keep his emotions in check, he nodded stiffly.
Go on.
Rachel composed herself.
During that night, Daniel got a bit enthusiastic. He accidentally struck his mouth against the bedpost. I remember him wincing in pain and touching his gold tooth. He brushed it off, but I suspect that's when the damage was done.
Dr. Hall's eyes widened as the truth finally came to light. Ah, I see. So Daniel knew all along it was his own fault, not mine.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Hall. I feel so ashamed to tell you earlier, but now I can no longer watch you take the fall for that snake's BS.
Dr. Hall's anger flared anew.
That lowlife. So, it was his own fault. Still he played victim and threw me under the bus.
His desire for justice intensified, but he knew suing Daniel was no longer a viable option. The cost would be too high, and the outcome uncertain.
I'll find another way to clear my name,
Dr. Hall vowed, determination burning within him.
Daniel may have won this battle, but I won't let him win the war.
Shortly thereafter, Dr. Hall extended an invitation to Daniel, luring him back to his clinic with a seemingly innocuous offer.
Hello, Daniel. I'm sorry to hear about the gold tooth. Let me make amends for the inconvenience. Why don't you come back here so I can restore this?
Daniel replied in a tone laden with attitude.
For sure, Dr. H. You owe me a fix for the mess you caused, man. I'll be back tomorrow.
The next day, the examination room, where Daniel sat, contained only the essentials: a dental chair, a sterilization unit, and a single flickering light overhead. The air was heavy with the scent of disinfectant and abandonment. The waiting room, once filled with chatter, now held only a lone chair and a plastic potted plant. Dr. Hall stood alone with Daniel, a faint, calculated smile spreading across his face. His eyes, though fixed intently on Daniel, betrayed no hint of accusation, carefully veiling the simmering resentment within. His demeanor was neutral, almost cordial, as he struggled to conceal the vengeful thoughts brewing beneath the surface.
Open wide, Dan,
he said calmly.
We'll have your perfect smile back in no time.
As Daniel opened his mouth in anticipation, Dr. Hall applied the solution to his gums, freezing them solid. Before Daniel could react, he injected another syringe into Daniel's tongue and then to his lips, immobilizing them under the pretense of pain relief. The gentle hum of the dental equipment was like a sedative, lulling the unsuspecting Daniel into a state of relaxation. As he worked, Daniel's eyelids grew heavy, his breathing slowed, and before he knew it, he was snoozing. Dr. Hall sneered at the sight of his patient gently snoring away. He had seen it before, of course. The combination of anxiety and relief could be a potent anesthetic. Daniel's gullibility was intriguing. The doctor's eyes gleamed with a vengeful intent. He reached for the drill. Without hesitation, he poked Daniel's tongue, leaving a burnt circular hole, yet Daniel did not stir. As he gazed down disdainfully at the relaxed face, Dr. Hall felt a thrill of temptation. With Daniel at his mercy, he couldn't help but wonder, why stop at a tongue?
Well, what do I have to lose?
Dr. Hall thought to himself, a sly grin spreading across his face. He leaned closer to Daniel's mouth. The possibilities swirled in his mind like a tantalizing puzzle, and for a moment he considered taking his work to a whole new level, one that would blur the lines between dentist and artist and change Daniel's life forever.
You'll thank me for this.
He stepped back to admire his handiwork, a sadistic grin spreading across his face. When he was all done, with a flourish, Dr. Hall shed off his white coat and snapped off his latex gloves, the sound echoing through the deserted office like a punctuation mark. After gathering up the basic tools of his trade in a suitcase, he turned to claim his reward, the airline tickets resting on the now deserted reception counter. He snatched the tickets with a victorious whoop, his smirk deepening as he stuffed them into his pocket. The airport beckoned, a promise of escape and freedom. Dr. Hall's footsteps echoed through the leased space, a madcap rhythm that seemed to mock Daniel's relaxed snoring. As he burst through the door, a warm breeze scattered the past due bills stuffed under the doorway. With a farewell glance at the clinic, Dr. Hall vanished into the night, leaving behind a scene of horror and a patient whose life would never be the same. The gold tooth seemed to glint in the darkness, a reminder of Dr. Hall's unhinged genius. Daniel's consciousness flickered back, his mind foggy. He tried to yawn but found out he couldn't open his lips. They simply wouldn't budge. Panic set in. A glance in the side mirror revealed his mangled mouth. Terror gripped him. Then his gaze landed on something glinting ominously at the end of a thread. It was the gold tooth swinging like a grotesque pendulum. At the sight, a silent scream reverberated in his mind. He was now Frankenstein resurrected. It swayed as if alive. Its slow, deliberate arcs hypnotized him. Tick, 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 tick. The metronome of madness. The tooth's dance was both captivating and repellent, a grotesque ballet that held him mesmerized. With his sanity teetering on the brink, Daniel frantically scanned the room for his tormentor, but found himself alone in the now deserted clinic. In a bid to free himself, he clawed at the threads with trembling fingers, trying to loosen the stitches. His sewn lips, still numb and frozen, felt like lead weights, unresponsive to his attempts to speak. Daniel's mind unraveled. Panic gave way to silent, convulsive laughter. His body shook, torso jerking, shoulders quaking. He texted 911, fingers trembling.
911, what's your emergency?
Soon sirens wailed in the distance, a cacophony of chaos and flashing lights. Adrenaline surged, fueling his madness. His lips, though sealed shut, couldn't contain his growing excitement. Silent, Muffled gasps escaped through his nose. With a numb, lopsided grin, he snapped selfies, angling for the perfect shot as his ego screamed,
"This is gonna be lit."
In the quest for fame, even disgrace can be a friend. In Daniel's case, a broken tooth became a golden opportunity. An irony lost on some, but not on those who dwell in a world where reality is just another form of entertainment in bug-eyed tales.
Thanks for tagging along on the wild ride that is The Gold Crown by Christina Rota. We hope this psychological thriller kept you hooked and made you think twice about chasing fame. Your time and attention mean a lot, and we're glad you stuck around for this creepy tale. Be sure to press the like button if the story's theme resonated with you. And don't forget to subscribe to the Bug-Eyed Tales channel, where more twists and turns are waiting. By subscribing, you'll always be in the loop for stories that shock, thrill, and keep you guessing. If you're into ebooks or printed books from Bug-Eyed Tales, grab a copy of Echoes of the Bayonet, a captivating collection of timeless articles and cartoons, both vintage and modern, that take you through the powerful history of 2 world wars. Thanks again for hanging out with us. We can't wait to bring you more unsettling stories. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep listening.
In the spotlight glowing bright, chasing fame with all my might. Followers rise day and night, no one's safe in my sight. Every post fuels my desire, burning hot like raging fire. Hearts and likes take me higher, truth and lies become a choir. I'll do anything to shine, cross the line time after time, step on dreams and make them mine. Viral fame is so divine. Share my life in vlogs and scenes, living out my wildest dreams. Every click a silent scream. In this cyber world I cling, but behind the endless scroll lies a heart that's grown so cold. Fame's a game that takes its toll, touching souls